What is up, guys? We are back at the Basketball Buddies podcast. We took a bit of a hiatus, but with the new NBA season upcoming here on next Tuesday, we are excited to be back. Caden, how are we doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Obviously, it was a rough year last year. That wasn't the reason the podcast ended. We just got a little busy, but I do want to give you your formal congratulations on a Thunder NBA championship. Um, it's a pretty big accomplishment. I remember how the Mavs championship felt, so I'm pretty happy for you, and hopefully, it won't happen again this year.
Yes, I appreciate your congratulations. It was glorious. Obviously, to see 17 years of culmination for the city just reach its full potential on the mountaintop was truly satisfying, something I'll never forget. But that being said, it's a new year, and we have to defend our title. And with that being said, um, let us first actually talk about kind of your thoughts on the Mavericks going into this next season.
Yeah, the Mavericks are going to be obviously one of the biggest question marks in the NBA, and we haven't really gotten to talk about on the podcast, the new additions and getting Cooper Flag and what that means for the organization and kind of what it means for the plan. Is last time we kind of left off was, a rough part of the Mavs, season where we were starting Kessler Edwards and Omax Prosper at the 4 and 5 and had all these injuries, and it's kind of, you know, we were on Nico's timeline of like, hey, we got to try to get this thing done in the next 3 years, 3, 4 years while Kyrie and AD are on the team. And now we've kind of developed this secondary timeline of the future as well to get, which has definitely eased a lot of Mavs fans' pain through last year. So obviously, what I'm kind of seeing this year with the Mavs and the biggest problems that we kind of face and also the biggest strengths. So obviously, massive team, just absolutely massive across the board. Uh, when you're starting, you know, Cooper Flag at point guard, and then you have 6'6", 6'8", 7 foot, 7'3". It's going to cause a lot of issues for teams, but also it's going to cause a lot of issues for yourself. And we've seen that. We've kind of seen a little bit of both from the Mavs this preseason with, you know, obviously there's some growing pains with getting new additions into the lineup and kind of seeing these guys play together for the first time, really, because they didn't get that opportunity last year because they were all hurt. So, my kind of thoughts of what I've seen is the Mavs have been in this preseason absolutely atrocious at guarding the three ball. And it's a culmination of a couple things. One is that there's just no sense of urgency running guys off the 3 point line. I've kind of talked about it a little bit on my Twitter. Um, the worst, there's four people that are terrible at it on the team specifically, and it's D'Lo, Clay, Najee, and PJ occasionally. And all four of those guys just get stuck ball watching and just they just kick out for one pass threes. And that's going to be the strength of this team is the defensive end because of all the versatility and all the guys that they have. But you have to be able to run guys off the 3 point line to be able to use some of that versatility. If guys can just catch and shoot willy nilly the entire game, it's going to be hard for, us to guard at all. Then we're having to stretch ourselves thin on the perimeter. So it's really just wanting to get guys to run guys off the 3 point line and then send guys into the trees. Like we want guys shooting shots over Derek Lively. We want guys shooting shots over Anthony Davis. We do not want guys being able to shoot threes all day, especially open ones like we were giving up the other night. So defensively is going to have some issues until we start running people off the 3 point line or getting guys in the lineup that do want to sit down and guard, like this Cooper Flag point guard, Klay Thompson shooting guard lineup is not going to really work for us for a number of reasons because Cooper Flag's not really a point guard, but it's mainly hurting us in the fact that Klay Thompson has got to guard the fastest guy on the court, which it's like just barbecue chicken every single
Right.
time.
Right.
So,
And thinking about, guys that could potentially carve out a role on this team because of their defensive prowess, I think of a guy like Dennis Smith Jr., right?
mhm,
Who, obviously we know the massive offensive hole at the guard position that is vacant right now because of Kyrie Irving.
yep,
But kind of speaking, beyond that, defensively, I think, you know, there is kind of I don't want to say a weakness because I don't think the Dallas Mavericks have a weakness defensively, but if it is, it's that perimeter defense. And that's where
it's
I do think a guy like Dennis Smith Jr. could especially carve out a role um, in guarding, like you said, the team's fastest player, most explosive athlete there.
right. That's the thing is I was with you 100%. Dennis Smith Jr. has been getting healthy scratches and stuff in our lineup, and I don't know why he hasn't been getting an opportunity because he would really help us out defensively, but it's going to be up if he's even on the roster come, next week because you got guys like Ryan Nimhard that have been balling out in preseason and guys like Brandon Williams who proved themselves all last year. So and they've been getting the opportunities over Dennis. So Dennis Smith would be a perfect fit in terms of defense for this team. Exactly. I wanted him on the roster and I want him to have a chance to carve out that role defensively. But right now we just have a bunch of kids just throwing guys out that, got the money or, are have the reputation at this point and less kind of putting guys out there that are going to fit well. I thought the best lineup that I've seen from the Mavs this preseason and what's kind of worked the most is seeing Ryan Nimhard in at the point guard spot with Cooper, PJ, AD, and D Live. It's and that's mainly from the fact that that team has an identity. Whenever Cooper's the point guard, there's anybody can bring the ball up. Anybody can initiate the offense. Anybody can do all this stuff. And it's just kind of watching people go out there and it's like they're playing pickup, honestly, is what it looks like. That offensive of style, whenever Cooper's the point guard, they're just out there playing pickup. AD's taking the ball up one time. Clay's taking the ball up sometimes. When Ryan Nimhard's on the court, when D Live gets a rebound, he's looking for Ryan Nimhard. He's looking for D'Lo. He's looking for whoever is going to be, that certified point guard to get the ball up the court. And that just helps our offense naturally. Then Clay's running to the corner. Then Cooper's running in transition where he's best. Then, PJ's running. It's just a whole lot more structured offensively whenever we actually have a guy out there that's played the point guard position. And that's not saying Cooper won't develop into that. But right now at this spot, Cooper's so used to just like taking off. And now he has to come back for the ball. Like we're taking away one of his biggest strengths. So I
Yeah,
don't
and I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, obviously, like it's great that Kyrie will be back in the second half of the season, but there's some real concerns that I have in the first half of the year offensively for this team,
Yep.
just because you don't have a guy who's necessarily going to be a true, you know, number one option.
Hmm.
Anthony Davis is a great player, but is he a guy in his career anymore that you necessarily want to run the offense through is the question. It
Yep.
Cooper Flag is going to develop into a fantastic player. Is he a guy that's going to be good enough to be your primary playmaker or even secondary playmaker at this point in his career as an 18-year-old?
Hmm.
Not saying he's not going to be capable of that. He completely is. But that's the question, right? We don't know at what level of efficiency we're going to get.
Right.
Um, so those are the things I also think that 3-point shooting wise. You know,
Hmm.
where is that going to come from in this team?
Yep.
Is Clay going to have to chuck up 10 threes a night at this point? He might. We don't know. If
Yep.
Clay, when Clay's on the bench, where's the 3-point shooting going to come from?
Yep.
I mean, I know you'll get a little bit of from PJ, and I know that his volume has been going up recently, but it's going to have to go up quite a bit, especially in the first half of the year,
Yep.
just to stretch teams out, or you're not going to be able to get it. I mean, I love Najee Marshall, but that's not really his strength at all.
Nope. And
So, and it's
yeah.
it's never really been Anthony Davis's strength either.
Yep.
And Cooper Flag is capable, but is he ready to shoot 4 or 5 of those suckers a night?
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's a great point, and everything you said, I completely agree with. It's going to be on the backs of we're going to see a lot of D'Lo threes, and we're going to see a lot of a lot of Clay threes, and honestly more PJ threes to start off the year because those are our three probably most consistent shooters. Now we have about 6 or 7 guys on the roster that just do the exact same thing, like they're just the exact same player, and it's going to come down to we're probably going to make a move, I'm assuming, because I would put a large amount of money on the fact that we're going to struggle pretty early on. We're going to be hovering around or probably below 500, is my guess to start off probably a couple months. And it's going to be pretty rough to watch. It's going to look like pickup offense because you have guys like Caleb Martin. You have guys like Najee Marshall. You have guys like, honestly, PJ kind of has the same archetype of guys that are just drive first, probably drive second, shoot third. Max Christie's, I love him to death. He's just a young guy, but like he just is not very consistent from outside. So it's gonna be we need to have some guys that are thinking shot first. Clay is really the only guy that's thinking three first before anything. And we need to kind of get a couple more of those guys so we can give AD that space. Because if AD's shooting jumpers all game, we're going to lose a lot of games because Anthony Davis is much better when he's being aggressive towards the rack, when he's able to play a little bit more, when teams are able to play gaps and guys aren't willing to shoot. Like Najee Marshall passes up about 4 or 5 open threes a game. Now he hits floaters, he makes plays, he does stuff like that. But we need guys that are able to make teams pay. So I agree that I could see the Mavs hovering or being a little bit below 500 to start the year, especially as they learn to gel a little bit and figure out their rotations, because that's going to be the big thing. Is J Kid has his work cut out for him because this team has no identity right now. They can't hang their hats on defense. They can't hang their hats on shooting. Like the only thing that they can really hang their hats on is they have a lot of players that are good players. Now, how do we get them to fit together? And Ryan Nimhard is a guy that's going to swing the ball and he's going to go out there and you know what he's going to do every single time. I wish D'Lo can kind of be that player, and he's you can tell he's thinking about it a little bit more because he's going out there and he's trying to pass the ball a little bit more than what we've seen from him. But we definitely need to have a couple guys in the lineup, at least at this point, that are, you know, point guards that are going to orchestrate, going to go get the ball from D Live, going to go take the ball up most of the time, going to initiate the offense. So it'll be interesting to see how the Mavs start out. I think that they'll struggle though.
Yeah, I think when I think about, beyond what we already touched on with the point guard position, with the shooting, I really do think that this team is gonna go by the way of Cooper Flag. If Cooper comes out the gate and he shows that he's capable of being a 25-5 guy right at the gate, y'all will be fine.
Yeah.
Y'all will be fine.
Hmm.
If and you hate to put those, preseason expectations on the guy, but you're the number one pick in the draft, you know, generational prospect, those are the type of things that come with it. And so if he's anything below that, you know, obviously we'll know, that he still has a long way to go, but that's just it's going to be interesting to see, what he's capable of.
Mhm. It's funny too because I almost feel like when you watch him play, he knows that he's around some really good players. It's not like, you know, he went to just a team full of bums. He knows he could, jack shots up all game. He's going to a team where he has expectations, and that's really strange. And it's almost, we kind of never seen it before. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Mavs handle this because it's the first time in my probably lifetime and in recent memory probably that a rookie is really going to be on a team that has, finals aspirations. Not saying that the Mavs are going to make the finals, but it's he can't go out there and think, "Oh, I need to get the ball to AD. Oh, I need to do all this," because that'll happen naturally throughout the game. And that he just does that naturally because he's a great passer and a great playmaker. He needs to be out there being aggressive for himself most of the time. He had multiple times last night where he had, Gabe Vincent on the top of the, outside on the right wing, clear baseline, like at least rip and go. Like try to see if you can get to the rim. If he cuts you off, then boom, you're right into your mid post game. So there's a little bit of more aggression that I want to see out of him that will make the team better and less unselfishness. He's a guy that I want to be selfish.
Yep.
I don't want D'Lo to be selfish. I don't want Najee to be selfish. I don't want PJ to be selfish as much as I would want Cooper to be selfish. So,
Yeah, and you know, it's not like Cooper Flagg played at some no-name school either in college. He played at
mhm.
Duke. He played next
Yep.
to Kaman Malawak and
Yep.
Con Knipple. Like he was playing with solid players even when he was in college. So and if you watched him, like he's never been a selfish guy. He's
Nope.
never been a guy that's just going to go out there and just say, "Oh, you know what? I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm getting 20 to 25 shots this game."
Hmm.
He's always, and what I'm interested to see is that when Gafford returns to this team, and like when you have, and I know Lively's obviously great at this too, but like a really consistent lob threat, like get him going downhill and to where he can throw that lob pass that he was great at in college. Like
Right.
that's the type of stuff that Dallas is going to have to tap into to really have the offensive consistency and the offensive floor they need to be able to succeed without Kyrie.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see what J Kidd can come up with for this team. But and I know you said that like the Mavs don't have an identity to me. To me, they're just so big and physical. Like they will be able to hang their hat on that and just win games out of sheer dominating the paint. I
Yeah.
think in the beginning part of the year, maybe not against the Houston Rockets, obviously, but like
Right.
teams like that don't really have a clear, inside presence, I think they'll be able to have some success,
Yeah.
um, and just dominate the paint and rebounding battle and possession battle.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't. It's an interesting year. If they can stay afloat by the time Kyrie returns and be 500 or a little bit over 500, I'd feel really good.
Right. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say before we move on to the Thunder is what you said about this team's identity is what it needs to be. Now, if you throw Klay Thompson out there, that physicality just goes down a little bit and defense goes down. I It's not a bad thing if Cooper's really aggressive going to the rim and he throws up maybe a contested layup over someone because guess who's going to be the one that has to contest Cooper Flag? It's going to be the center. And who's the center leaving? You know, AD, Gaff, D Live. Like we need to be owning the offensive glass, and we just haven't been. We haven't been aggressive going to the glass. I don't know if that's because preseason and AD is so out of shape. That might be a little bit of a reason why too. But um, the Mavs need to own the O glass. The Mavs need to own the defensive glass. Like that has to be a non-negotiable. If we lose the rebounding battle, we will guarantee you 10 times out of 10 times lose the game. We need to be aggressive
Probably by a
attacking the
lot
rim.
too.
Yeah, exactly. We need to be aggressive attacking the rim. If we can't shoot, that's fine. We need to get tons and tons of O boards. We need to get at least 15, 12 to 15 a game
Yep.
if we're not shooting the ball that effectively because we need to be relentless attacking the glass. Now, that's not someone playing one on one and shooting a post hook. That's someone breaking someone off the dribble and then getting that center to rotate because then you get our monsters, being boxed out by guards. So that I think has the biggest potential for the team, and it's the best. I think that's going to be a blessing for Cooper because he's going to get really aggressive, and that's one of the great things about Kyrie being out is Cooper can really tap into that aggression because we're going to need it, and end up having I think he'll end up having a Rookie of the Year type of season. Foreshadowing our award predictions later, but I think that identity, what you said, is exactly what the Mavs are going to have to do to win games. So
Yeah, and that formula will also help with the three-point shooting
yeah.
because the most open three-point shot is always off the offensive rebound.
Best shot
So
in basketball.
exactly. So high expectations for the Mavs, obviously overall in the season, but maybe some struggles early out the gates is kind of what we're anticipating here. So it'll be intriguing to watch. So now we can kind of segment to talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder and their expectations for the upcoming season.
Yep.
Obviously, with us coming off of a championship, um, I think there are lofty expectations to repeat as champions. Um, Undoubtedly so. We have pretty much the same roster. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what mentality we have through the season.
Yeah.
So going into the offseason, pretty much all that Presti did was hand out $500 million to our big three, and
Yep.
then also get really team friendly deals for Jalen Williams and AJ Mitchell.
Yeah.
So the only departure was Dylan Jones, who was obviously not a factor in us winning the championship.
hmm
So
I was gonna ask so when it's been almost 10 years since the last time someone has won a title back to back. What do you think? So the Thunder brought back their entire roster, the same roster. What growth or changes do you think, or does it stay the same? Do you think needs to happen for them to beat that kind of curse that's developed over the last 10 years?
100%. So in the regular season last year,
Oh.
it was really interesting to watch because, we went through, and people don't remember this because it was in 2024. Uh, but we went through a stretch of the season where we didn't have Chet healthy, we didn't have Hartenstein healthy, and we didn't have Jalen Williams healthy.
Mhm.
And we were still somehow winning basketball games and still won 69 games,
Yep.
68 games. So, like, what I want to see is obviously us just develop chemistry wise a little bit. Jalen Williams may miss the start of the year, so who's going to step up offensively and be that second guy for us? Is
Mhm.
it going to be Chet Holmgren?
Yep.
Is it going to be AJ Mitchell? Is it going to be a more expanded role for Kaysen on ball? Is it gonna,
Andrew
obviously,
Wiggins.
Andrew Wiggins,
Yep. Andrew Wiggins, yeah.
Nikola Topic is
Yep.
going to be a guy that's going to get some on ball responsibility when he comes back.
Yep.
So, Brooks Barnheiser could be a guy that even shines through and becomes a decent option. So I think just for us, obviously, we've shown that really no matter who's healthy, we're going to win a lot of games. We're going to win 60 or 70 games outside of, you know, disastrous levels of injury.
Hmm.
If Shea is healthy, I mean, Shea himself is almost a top 10 or top 15 offense in the league just by himself. So really just what I want to see is who's going to be able to be that on-ball secondary guy, if anybody, in this early part of the season with Jalen Williams
Yep.
back. And even when Jalen Williams comes back,
Yep.
Chet, and another thing people don't forget or don't remember either is when before Chet went down with his hip injury, he really started off the season strong. Like that 9 game stretch, he started the season off, almost outplaying the best player in the world versus in the season opener versus Nuggets, dropping a 30-point game. So can he get back to that role, especially with Jalen Williams out,
Mhm.
and maybe we can see a little bit more Chet creation and a little more Chet on ball that we didn't really
Yep.
get into as much in the playoffs because he rejoined the team after the All-Star break.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see sort of who takes that mantle to be able to run the offense when Shea's out.
Yep.
I think we have capable guys, uh, and I look at Chet predominantly as being the guy that I would assume takes that role.
Hmm.
Um, but I could easily see it being AJ Mitchell too.
Yep. That
I could
was that.
see.
Yeah. I was
Sorry.
gonna say we know the Thunder are going to win a lot of basketball games this year. That's the question is not, it's the question is not what they're going to do in the regular season or any of these. It's kind of just seeing, the Thunder were obviously a fantastic team, one the best team in the NBA last year. They still had weaknesses, and what are they going to do to address those weaknesses from last year to this year? Sam Presti obviously has shown by this offseason he's banking on the development of players, which he has is for the past 5 years, and it's worked out great, obviously. So it's going to come down to, like you said, is those non-Shea minutes. I feel like we're I'm a broken record when we talk about that. Those non-Shea minutes were always in the negatives, pretty much. I mean, there's a couple instances where J-Dub had a really, really good showing in those non-Shea minutes, but it's like who's going to be that kind of tertiary or third ball handler option for the Thunder this year. And there's like you said, very capable guys that can do that. And the other thing I'm kind of looking for with the Thunder is kind of perfecting that Chet Hart, front court. We never really had to see them go to that lineup in crunch time during the playoffs and against really big teams because quite frankly the Thunder didn't have to face anybody that big. The biggest team they played with was the Nuggets, and at that point you guys had Caruso guarding Jokic, and so I think those are the two biggest questions for the Thunder this year. Is we know they're going to win games. We don't have to worry about them in the regular season. They're going to be a really high seed. They're going to probably win they're almost a lock for 2 playoff series. They're going to play someone in the Western Conference Finals that's probably going to be their biggest opponent. And it's what are they going to do with those non-Shea minutes at that point? Who carves out that role coming off the bench? Is it AJ? Is it AJ Mitchell? Is it Casey Wallace taking it? Does Topic get back and he becomes this player that Sam Presti obviously thinks he is? And what's going to happen with the Chet and Hart lineups if you guys really have to go to it? So obviously they didn't get play a whole lot together during the season last year just because of Chet's injury, but those two things will be the biggest questions for me, especially in a Western Conference that's had so many teams reload with tons of talent.
Right. Um, yeah, I really, when I think of Casey Wallace, like I think of and what he could be. And I'm not saying he's going to turn into this at all, but I think of a guy like Drew Holiday, you know,
Yep.
just and you don't think about Casey Wallace's defensive prowess because he is hidden on one of the best defensive teams ever assembled. But Case Wallace would be the best perimeter defender on half the teams in the league. if he were to
Mhm.
be on a different team. So if he can develop into um, more of an on-ball creator and run the pick and roll like he did the other night versus Milwaukee, he's going to be a problem. And we saw flashes of him in the last playoff run. I mean, people forget he was 21 in that run. I mean,
Mhm.
he had a bad finals series, but leading up to that, he was playing just impactful, winning, great basketball. So I think he's going to have a great year. I'm excited to see him. AJ Mitchell, second round pick from last year. His season kind of got derailed with his foot injury, but he was really getting in a groove too.
Mhm.
And you know, I have expectations for him being our backup point guard going into the playoffs. I
Yep.
think what's gonna be the difference for us, repeating or not, is you saw like well, the number one thing that I think of, like when I reminisce on our last playoff run, is how poor we played on the road. I
Mhm.
think for whatever reason, our offense was terrible, terrible on the road. We know with this team and how it's built, the floor of performance that it gives you when you have a defense such as ours. What's going to take us to another level is going to be offensive consistency and creating good looks. And there were times, dry spells, where we just could not shoot. And I think a lot of that was not necessarily to do with the fact that we don't have capable 3-point shooters. I think we do. I don't think we're a great 3-point shooting team, but I think we have capable shooters. I think
Mhm.
what's going to help with that is creating better looks for those guys,
Yep.
an easier shot diet. You know,
Mhm.
um, can when Jalen Williams comes back, can he be a guy that, he needs to be that guy like he was this last season, shooting 4 or 5 threes a game, every game,
Yep.
and creating for others. Jalen Williams at his best was one of our best creators. Now, Shea can give you 10 assists tonight, but Shea's going to be at his best being the best guard in the world scoring the basketball. That's what
Yep.
he does. So, I think obviously offensively is where we need to see growth. And if we're going to repeat, it's going to be on the backs of our big three creating more reliable shots for others.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. It's almost like you saw a confidence switch flip for like players like Cason Wallace and Lou Dort and Aaron Wiggins and all those guys whenever they're at home versus on the road. And that happens with a lot of teams, especially a lot of young teams, is there's just I feel like there's a heavy reliance on leaning on Shea on the road and him being aggressive because we know Shea's going to show up regardless. Whatever atmosphere or anything, he's going to be aggressive and hit shots. Now, you know, those guys just kind of lean on him a little bit on the road versus at home when, regardless if I step up and take the shot, nothing bad happens at home. And people that are basketball players and everybody knows what it's like to be at that home atmosphere when everybody's cheering for you versus on the road. So it's gonna be interesting to see who kind of develops that confidence to step up and hit big shots on the road, maybe outside of Shea. If Shea's having an off night and y'all are on the road, it's like, man, the defense travels. That's not going to be a problem. You guys are going to be in games on the road just from the defensive perspective. But it's like you said, it's who's going to step up and take shots, have confidence to go up and hit big shots in the playoffs. And I think J Dub obviously is that number one option that you're gonna want to lean on him a little bit more to create for others because that's really what his strength is. In those situations is getting downhill to the basket relentlessly. And that's when he's at his best, is when he's playing inside out. And that's kind of been the difference in his, even at the beginning of the playoffs this year, he wasn't, you kind of saw him grow a little bit from the beginning of that playoff run to the end because he was settling for a lot of jumpers just like he did the year before against the Mavs. And then you saw him be aggressive, get steals, go from inside out, and that's when he's at his best. And hopefully he continues to do that for the Thunder,
Right. I
because then he can
think,
open up looks for others.
yep. Game five of the NBA Finals, when he scored 40 points, the first 10 of his points in the first quarter were just at the rim or at the free throw line.
Hmm.
And that's the way he gets going. And so we need, I really do think if we get the best possible versions and we have Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren take a step, I really do think that we can get it done again.
Hmm.
But like we're about to get into, there are a there are other capable teams like the Denver Nuggets that
Yep.
are going to test you a lot more than they did last year. So
Yep.
we know that the regular season is not our goal anymore. We know we're going to win a lot of games. We were first in the West the past two seasons. I really don't see a way that we're not first in the West again, to be quite honest. Um, we know we're going to get out of Shea the past three seasons. He's had 30 points, over 50% field goal, around two turnovers.
Hmm.
It's going to be the development of the other two in the big three and how can we generate better looks for the other guys. So a
Yep.
lot of interesting stuff. Mark will play around with it and play every single guy on the roster because that's what he does in the regular season. So it'll be fun.
Yep. I feel like that kind of tees us off for our next segment, which is going to be our season predictions for the conferences. And we're going to go through the 15, what we believe will be the top 15 seeds or the 15 seeds ranked, I guess, for each conference this year. And I think we can go ahead and knock it out of the way. I feel like we both kind of agreed with this one as we think OKC will finish as the one seed. I don't think a whole lot of people are going to bet against that. They're going to win a lot of games this year, and obviously we went into depth with them.
Yep.
I think they're going to maybe be as dominant as they were in the regular season last year. I don't think as much because I think Mark is going to do a lot more testing of rosters to kind of see and develop players a little bit more. So I think they're going to win like probably around 63 to 66 games, probably, in my opinion.
Yeah. The only reason why I honestly disagree with that is just because like Mark was doing that just as much last year, and we were incredibly injured last season
Yeah.
throughout the regular season. So honestly, like if I had to put a number on it, I would say we're going to win the 70 games.
I wouldn't be shocked, but yeah, we'll
But
see on that.
we don't need to spend too much time on the Thunder. We just talked about them.
Yep.
We're both in the consensus that they are going to be the one seed. So moving on, a team that I mentioned briefly um, made a lot of eyebrow raising moves this offseason after losing to us in the second round in seven games. The Denver Nuggets I have as the Western two seed.
Yep. Uh, and we can kind of hit on them. I had the Rockets as the two seed in the West. Now,
Yeah.
like
So
you said,
where did you have the Nuggets?
I had the Nuggets at 3.
Okay.
So, like you said, it's we can go on the Nuggets first, and then we'll get to the Rockets because I think we just switched them, both of us. You had the Nuggets at 2, Houston at 3, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, just diving into the Nuggets real quick. We're not going to spend too much time on them just because of, we all know that they're going to be really good. Notable additions for the Nuggets this season. Obviously, they get the reunion with Bruce Brown, coming back for a 1-year deal. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Cam Johnson, Jonas Valanciunas, all coming in as notable additions. And I'm just going to be straight up honest. I think that team, come playoff time, just on paper right now, is going to be the best team in the NBA from the pure fact that team was playing Russell Westbrook like crazy minutes in the playoffs, important minutes in the playoffs last year, and he is barely playable and he barely just got signed literally like the other day. And so you take out a guy like MPJ who stunk it up in the playoffs last year. If we're being honest, shot horribly from the field, did nothing, was one of the worst defenders every time he stepped on the court. And you bring a guy in like Cam Johnson, who's proven, been to a finals before. He's proven that he can step up and hit shots. And you pair him with Jokic, like unbelievable. And I think Tim Hardaway Jr. will have one of his best years of his career going and playing with Jokic. And then obviously we know what Bruce Brown can do. You pair some snipers up around Jokic like that, and you're gonna have yourself a really, really, really good team. And I expect Jokic to be hungry, coming back and playing against the Thunder. So it'll be that team is loaded to me, absolutely
Yeah,
loaded.
they absolutely are. You hit the nail on the head. Shipping out um, guys that necessarily didn't give you the production that they needed when it mattered most. For guys that they've had before, like Bruce Brown, uh, Tim Hardaway, a capable floor spacer. Um, you know, even bringing up like Jonas Valanciunas,
Yep.
who is not the best player in the NBA, but will give the Nuggets a reliable backup big, which they really didn't have last year.
Hmm.
I saw DeAndre Jordan take the floor against us in the playoffs multiple times,
Yeah.
and so Jonas will give them a capable floor at least when he gets in the game,
Yeah.
rebounding the ball, um, providing a lot of size for them.
Hmm.
I think the addition of Cam Johnson is extremely intriguing. When you think about the Nuggets' big three with Gordon, Murray, and Jokic, I couldn't think of a guy that would fit better next to those three.
Yep.
As the ultimate complementary piece. So the Nuggets are completely loaded. Um, they're 1,000% our biggest threat to repeat. I don't even think it's close
Yep.
in my mind. So it'll be super interesting to see where they end up with the West. Why did you choose to have the Rockets at two over them?
All right. This is so in my mind, when I was thinking of the Nuggets and them signing a player like Jonas, I was thinking that Jokic was probably going to be able to take a lot more games off. And that's why they're probably not going to win as many in the regular season. Obviously, an older team too, than the Rockets. And you'll see I have a pretty biased list towards some of these young up and coming teams just because I think that they're regular season machines most of the time, in terms of winning games and being able to sustain that long NBA season. But um, let's dive into the Rockets because I feel like that's the most hot topic, intriguing team for pretty much every analyst or, NBA fan around the league because they went out and got Kevin Durant this summer. And, we all know Kevin Durant he's going to be a bucket until, whenever he decides to hang it up. That could be at 50. He's still going to be a bucket, you know? And you bring in a guy like that, and then I think it's almost addition by subtraction, taking out Jalen Green, shipping him out of there because he was just an inefficient shot chucker that didn't pass the ball. And that's why they lost in the playoffs, honestly, is because he couldn't step up and hit shots. He was just super inefficient. So um, they're going to win a ton of games this year. I'm expecting a big step up from Amon this year, and especially, possibly playing that point guard role for them and being in the starting lineup. I mean, just they're like the Mavericks, just a massive team, massive. And so
Yep.
you
Yep.
go out and you get guys like KD. I feel like they had the most underrated signing the entire summer in Dorian Finney-Smith, for them, who's
Yep.
going to fit in perfectly. So, and then, that opens up opportunities with Fred VanVleet going down to get Reed Shepherd involved in the offense. So,
Yep.
many things to watch for these Rockets. And I think they're going to be dang, they're gonna be coached really well. We've seen Ime Udoka lead basically a team that looked exactly like this in the Celtics to the finals. So they're gonna be a threat. They're gonna win a lot of games in the regular season, I'm assuming, unless, Lord willing, an injury happens. So they'll be a fun team to watch.
Yeah, I think the the Rockets, I think, kind of similar to us, will have a great floor no matter what if the shots are going down just because of the defense they play. Now, losing a guy like Brooks is tough, but Amon Thompson can and Tari Eason can be just absolute game wreckers on the defensive end. Um, so last year they really had success running the Steven Adams, um, Sengun lineups with the double big,
Yep.
and they went all in on this offseason in bringing in Capella
Yeah.
to be able to run that double big look pretty much all game if they want to.
Yep.
So that'll be super interesting to see how teams combat that because Capella and Adams are just absolute monsters rebounding the
Mhm.
basketball. I think Steven Adams is, and I thought this even when he's on the Thunder, is at his peak form, the best rebounder in basketball. And to throw him on the floor with Sangoon and Capella is just will be a lot for teams to handle.
Yeah.
What is going to be the Rockets' limiting factor is again similar with the Thunder. Offensively, what are they going to look like? How are they going to be able to create shots? Is Amin Thompson going to be able to space the floor at all?
Hmm.
Is, you know, how is DFS going to be able to, you know, contribute if his looks are a little bit, not as good as he's used to playing with Luka Doncic, you know? So these are the questions I have. But with Kevin Durant, you know, you're always going to get I mean, we know what we're going to get out of Kevin Durant. He's been in the league
Yep.
for almost 20 years now. He's going to give you, you know, hyper efficient 25 points a game every game. So,
Every.
um, yeah, it'll be super interesting. They'll be a great team.
Yeah.
I just, they'll be really good and super fun to watch.
Yeah.
So,
I
um,
mean, I'm gonna watch every game. Like you can't,
yeah.
you're not gonna be able to peel me off from a Rockets game this
Yep.
season, and it's gonna be the same with the Thunder and the Nuggets, and obviously the Mavs. This Rockets team is gonna be a lot of fun to watch. They got a lot of questions, but I believe in Ime Udoka figuring it out. That's why I have him esteemed so highly in my preseason rankings. So,
Yep.
um,
Jabari Smith Jr. One last thing on the Rockets. Jabari Smith Jr. finished last year's playoff run like with a lot of success.
mhm.
Um, with him back in the starting lineup, being healthy, like he can really help them out offensively if he sort of gets back into, kind of like his truest form, what he was doing in college, just getting buckets.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see kind of what we get out of him this year.
Yeah. And then I think we both were kind of thinking similarly here, and we probably need to speed it up a little bit more. No big changes for the Timberwolves. They're going to still win a lot of games. They're really talented. Obviously, we know Ant's going to do his thing this year. Going to be good defensively. Obviously, the offense is always the limiting factor with them. Point guard play is what we're gonna need to see from them as well. We both had the Timberwolves at 4, so I don't think we need to go too into depth on them. Just kind
No,
of the same thing from what we've seen.
No, we're gonna get out of Timberwolves. Chris Finch, excellent coach. It's gonna be for them. Can the young guys step up? Can Terrence Shannon Jr., can Jalen Clark, Rob Dillingham give you good enough minutes to carry the season? What levels of play are you gonna be able to get out of Mike Conley? His play really fell off. What are you going to get out of Joe Ingles? Stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, but either way, Anthony Edwards, um, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels, they're going to be a great team. We
Yep.
both have them at 4. So
Yep.
At five, I think is when we start to differentiate a little bit. At number five, I have the Lakers.
Yep.
Where do you
And
have the Lakers at?
I have the Lakers all the way at 8.
Okay,
So we were thinking way differently of the Lakers, and I'm okay to go to depth a little bit on them.
sure.
Um, we know, I mean, how much are we going to be able to rely on Luka Doncic playing a lot of games is going to be the question for them. We know LeBron's out for a while to start the year, and quite frankly, you know, Aiton I don't think is the answer at center. Um, I think Aiton's probably the worst center that Luka has played with since like Dwight Powell or Boban, I guess. Now Aiton's not horrible, but you wouldn't think of him as just this paint presence that's going to be able to snag rebounds and block shots and defend the rim and everything like that. So, um, this Lakers team is going to be terrible defensively. They're awful. They're going to be one of the worst defensive. I mean, they're going to be middle of the pack defensively just because JJ Redick's a good coach. Um, but when you're going to have a Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves and DeAndre Ayton, and probably what Rui as your starting five, like I can't name one guy that would be able to guard Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, like or guard, even
Well,
Nikola
no,
Jokic from
no
that
one
point.
can guard Shea, but anyways,
But it's
um,
like who are you like Devin Booker, like Ant, like all these guys, like who's gonna guard him? Is it
right.
you're gonna put Austin Reeves to start the game on them? Like
Yep.
this team has been
Well, it's going to be
it's the
Marcus Smart.
Lakers.
It's going to be Marcus Smart.
Oh yeah, Marcus Smart for sure. And but is Marcus Smart able to step up the way that he did when he was the defensive player of the year? Is going to be the question
Probably
because
not.
he has we haven't seen him play in a while. Like we saw him play limited games for the Grizzlies last year, but even then, it's like, what did he do? What did he do? He kind of got pushed out. They had Jalen Wells, and who was just much better than Marcus Smart. So it'll be interesting to see. Marcus Smart will definitely be able to help in that starting lineup. I almost forgot they had him. He'll probably start next to Austin and Luca, but we know his limitations offensively. So
Yeah, and that's why,
Lakers,
maybe a guy like Thiero, I butchered
mhm,
that pronunciation, could maybe work out a role.
yep,
Um, the reason I have the Lakers at five is I think Luca uh is still a top five player in the league to me. I think he showed is going to be really motivated this season after being, just honestly embarrassed in the first round last year by Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I believe in JJ Luca to have that team playing at a competent level. But really, the thing about the Western Conference last year and the last couple of years is there's been such a little gap between the 4 through 10 seeds in the West. I'm looking at rosters, standings. I don't see a lot of that changing. The Lakers could be five or they could be 10. It very
yeah,
easily be 10 this year.
right.
So I had them at five. We'll kind of see what we get out of them.
Yep. And I think yeah, that'll be good. And I have the San Antonio Spurs at 5, and we could be pretty brief on them.
Yeah.
Young team, fiery team. I think this is the year they really try to go after the playoffs and get Wemby that playoff experience. Obviously, you get a top draft pick like, Dylan Harper, you're going to be pretty good. And it's going to come down to how well they mesh together. uh Kind of oddly constructed because you kind of have 3 point guards almost, that's going to be getting, possibly starting. I don't know if Dylan Harper will start initially. um it's gonna be
It'll be
interesting
tough
to
to keep
see
that
who they
guy on the
play.
bench.
Oh yeah. Oh, it will. It's going to be interesting to see who they kind of go to because obviously you have De'Aaron Fox who's going to be starting at the one. You have you have Castle who's going to be playing a lot of minutes and who they really love. But, you also have a guy like Devin Vassell, and, you have Jeremy Shokan, and, you know, you have flexibility. You have the ultimate flexibility because you have Wembanyama at center, who's able to grab a lot of rebounds and block a lot of shots and play good defense. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with the rotations. That's going to be the biggest question because they're kind of log jammed a little bit with their top guys at the point guard position and shooting guard, little combo guard spots. So that'll be a team to watch. They're going to win a lot of games, I feel like, this year. Kind of take that first step. A lot of games by like they're going to be in the 40s, I'm assuming. Maybe low 50s or mid 50s. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do with the roster that they have and the talents there.
Yeah, I honestly, I really like what they did in the offseason. Bringing in the best player available at their pick with Dylan Harper, bringing
Hmm.
in a guy who should impact winning with Carter Bryant,
Mm.
bringing in a reliable backup big, which they have not had in the Wembanyama era with Luke Cornett. You know, I think they should be much improved. They'll be a lot of fun to watch. I had them at
Mm.
9, but like I said, could easily see them from anywhere from 5 to 10. You know,
Yeah.
they're going to be a fun watch. At 6 in my predictions, I had the Clippers.
I think we both have the Clippers at 6.
Yeah,
And we don't need to go too
obviously.
into depth into them either because they're pretty much going to be the same team as last year, honestly.
Well, I don't know if they'll be the same team as last year. I mean, they had quite a bit of offseason changes. Bringing in John Collins, Brooke Lopez, Bradley Beal, Chris Paul. Um, they are going to be interesting because they have a lot of guys that defensively are really limited.
Hmm.
Can Chris Dunn and Derek Jones Jr. be able to carry them defensively? And Zubac, in the interior, be able to give them, a floor defensively.
Yeah.
You know,
And
for
yeah.
for the guys like Chris Paul and Bradley Beal and James Harden, who you're not really going to get much out of.
Hmm. And that's kind of when I talk about the going to be the same as last year, I don't mean roster construction and more of like ceiling and floor. Is the Clippers year after year since basically, I was in high school or in middle school is going to have one of the most talented rosters in the NBA. That's never been a question with them. It's how they gel in the playoff time. It's how they guard in the playoff time. And that's been their downfall, quite honestly, for the past few years. I mean, they went 7 games with the Nuggets last year and they, didn't really have an answer in game 7 for them. So it's going to come down to defense, how Tyronn Lue manages all those talented guys, older veteran guys that some of them may not play as much as they really want to, and it's going to be how he manages that locker room, how he manages that rotation. So Clippers they're going to make the playoffs. We know that they're going to be pretty much the exact same team in terms of ceiling and floor as we've seen the last few years. Um,
Yep.
and then 7, I had Dallas, but you had
I had Golden
someone else
State.
7. Golden State. Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we can kind of go
So
over that a little bit on them.
yeah, with we don't have to touch much on Dallas. We
Yeah.
kind of talked about where we see them. But
Hmm.
with Golden State, I had them at 7. Um, not a lot of offseason moves. Really, the most notable is you bring in Al Horford, you lose Kevon Looney, right? This team really got going down the stretch after trading for Jimmy Butler last year.
Hmm.
And the reason I have them at 7 is just because, I feel like with Draymond Green and Steph Curry at their best, they have their anchor on each side of the floor, and they're going to give you a solid level of production if those guys stay healthy.
Yep.
And you know, Al Horford, although he is getting old fits this team perfectly. I
Hmm.
think he's a type of big that they should have tried to get a long, long time ago. And he's going to be great for them just to finally have a stretch five to pair alongside Steph Curry that can also defend a little bit.
Hmm.
They'll be fun to watch. The Warriors are always a fun watch. What are we going to get out of Pods? What are we going to get out of Kaminga? Um, those are kind of the questions to see the ceiling of this Golden State team. But they're right in there in the West. They always are. They're an intriguing team.
Yeah, I had them at 9. So just a few spots below you. I had the Lakers at 8. Kind of the next team that I have on my list that I wanted to get to talk about a little bit is the Grizzlies. And Grizzlies are one of those teams where obviously they traded Bane. Jaw's going to be out for a little bit of time. Um, it's going to come down to how well they're cut. Because I was a big Taylor Jenkins fan, honestly, and that was a shocking move to me. But somehow that team is in the playoffs, like they win games, and they somehow get it done every year. Now KCP had a terrible, terrible year last year for the Magic, like one of the worst of his career. So it'll be interesting to see how he responds. Now, the Grizzlies are one of those teams that I have 10th in my list, but I could see them being like 14th if, the cards don't align for them. Big Jalen Wells guy. I loved how he looked last year for them. I thought Zach Edey exceeded probably a lot of expectations that were placed on him last season. And then obviously it's going to come down to health for that team, but they're going to win games. Like Ty Jerome was a notable offseason signing, so he's going to be able to help keep them afloat and things like that. So uh, very interesting team. Again, I could see them finishing anywhere from 8th to 15th, honestly.
Yep, I totally agree. Um, I don't really know at this stage of his career, what you're gonna get out of a guy like KCP, what you're gonna get out of a guy like Jock Landale.
Hmm.
Um, Ty Jerome had an excellent regular season last year, but was terrible in the playoffs. I expect him to at least keep him afloat. I think Scottie Pippen Jr. is another guy who ended the year on a really strong note versus the Thunder. Um, well, I expect he will be able to keep up their level of play at a decent amount. Santi Aldama, another guy that finished the season really strong. I think he's going to be a huge part in keeping them afloat. So they have pieces. Like you said, they're a well-ran organization that always seems to win. I expect they'll be smack dab right where they belong in the middle of the play-in chase. But I had them at 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So not too far off. And then um, at 11, I had the Pelicans. I don't know who you had at 11.
yeah, so I have the Pelicans at 12 and the Suns at the I had the Suns at 10, the Grizzlies at 11, and the Pelicans at 12.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like we kind of like we both agreed that these like 11 through or this like 9 through 13 can kind of be interchangeable
yep.
because that's how close it is.
Yeah. No, I mean, you could argue that 5 through 14 is going to be
You're
interchangeable. I
right.
mean, with how deep the West is this year. Really um with the Pelicans, right? What are you going to see Jordan Poole play at a potential All-Star level? Uh, what is he going to look like on a team that wants to win games? What is, Kevon Looney going to look like?
Hmm.
Um, right now they have to start the season, they're going to have a serious, hole at the big man position because Vlatko, their backup center, is hurt. Derek Queen's hurt and Kevon Looney's hurt.
Hmm.
So really, you got Messi out there, and that's about it.
Yep.
So um, Hunter Dickinson might have to play, which
Mhm.
I don't know about that. So it'll be
Or we
interesting to
may see
see.
some Zion at the 5.
That's right, and I that's a great point. I think Zion at the 5 may be their best lineup. Probably will be their best lineup.
Mm,
moving forward, at least to start the year. So um, obviously, Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fears, two polarizing rookies. Will their play impact winning, though? I don't know the answer to that question. I
yep.
would lean no, which is why I have them
Mhm.
at 12. But we'll see. I mean, is if Trey Murphy and Zion can both stay healthy and stay out there, I like what the Pelicans have. And, if they can get solid production around them, you know, uh, with DeJounte Murray coming back off of injury, I mean, they're a talented squad. It's just,
Yeah.
can they put it together to win games in one of the deepest NBA Western conferences that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's the question, and that's the only reason I have them at 12. Is just because there's a lot of question marks. Um, but in all seriousness, I could see them like we said, certain with the talent they have, being a 5 or 6 seed because that's what they're capable of.
Hmm.
So super high ceiling, low floor team,
Yep.
just a lot of question marks, and that's why I have them at 12.
Right. I agree. I agree with everything. It'll be interesting to see how they incorporate Jeremiah Fears. Um, you kind of don't want him taking, going under Jordan Poole's wing with just how Jordan Poole shot chucks and doesn't contribute to winning as much. Uh, it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, they have all the talent in the world. Now, how is it going to mesh together? And that's why I don't see it meshing well together, which is why I have them out of the playoffs. But we again, the talent's there. I wouldn't be surprised if they were in that play-in chase or playoff chase. So 12, I had Portland,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
very
I had
interesting to me.
Portland at 14.
And I'll say this is I'm going to start off by saying Portland is one of those teams that is literally probably. I wouldn't be shocked if they're a top five defensive team in the NBA.
100%.
And their biggest question, which was their question last year, is they were a really, really good defensive team last year, but offensively, like just outside shooting, you know, it's what are you going to get from them? They could get hot one game and hit tons of threes, or they can be really cold. But when you have players like Drew Holiday, Matisse Thybulle, Kamara, obviously, like even Denis is a really good defender. Then you have guys like Janssen and Klingon in the paint. It's like and Jeremy Grant, like those are all versatile, great defenders. So it's that team is going to be a top five defensive team in the NBA. It's going to come down to what they can do offensively.
Yeah, I like the move getting rid of Aiton because it really lets Klingon into that starting lineup. And he was one of the best centers in the NBA defensively last year as a rookie.
Yep.
And I mean, he is just a presence down there. Um, they're an intriguing team, but I agree totally with what you said about their offense. You know, they're going to have a lot of pressure on guys like Scoot Henderson, on guys like Shaden Sharp, and usually with young guards, it's inconsistent. So,
Yep.
but losing a guy like Anthony Simons is only going to help their defense, and
Mm.
adding Drew Holiday.
Yep.
So I'll tell you this, they're not going to be fun to play. No
No,
one's going to want to
no.
play them. So,
Going to Portland's going to be a very. We're going to see some low scoring games in Portland this year.
mhm. I had them at 14. I could see them taking a step and being in the race. Just like we talked about, a lot of depth this year in the
Yep.
Western Conference. So nothing against them. I think they'll take steps as a young team and develop for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So who did you have at 12?
So one team we haven't talked about yet that I have at 10 actually is Phoenix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so obviously with Kevin Durant heading out, with Bradley Beal hanging out, this team made a lot of moves in the offseason.
Mhm.
Um, And honestly, for the most part, I like how their roster's structured more than it was last year. I like the talent that Kaman Malawak gives you. I like the talent that Mark Williams gives you. You know, Dylan Brooks gives them an element that they did not have at all last year, a significant ball stopper, 3-and-D type of guy.
Mhm.
You know, the question is with them is, are we going to get the Devin Booker that is playing as one of the best guards in the NBA? Or are we going to get the Devin Booker of the past of last year? You
Yeah.
know, where his play's a little fallen off. You know, that's the question. What are we going to get
Yeah.
out of Jalen Green?
Yeah.
You know, um, I. But for the most part, like the biggest weakness of that team last year was their center position, and having guys like I just think Malawach is a really intriguing talent.
Yeah. He'll be good.
I he is His ceiling is huge.
Hmm.
I mean, really, really high.
I
Um,
agree.
but what level of his play does he get you this year? How
Yeah.
many games does Mark Williams play? There's still a lot of question marks.
Right.
Um, but I think bringing in a guy like Dylan Brooks, who's won everywhere he's went, is gonna give them, and it'll get in your face about it if you're not playing hard. I think does a
Right.
lot for them.
So this is the only team that I think on this entire list that we've been a little bit further apart on than anything because I think that this is one of the worst constructed rosters in the Western Conference for me personally. And the reason I think that is because I think Jalen Green and Devin Booker together is a terrible fit, like horrible. Because they're both on ball guys for the most part. And the reason why Devin Booker was kind of struggling last year, in my opinion, is because they had him playing the point position most of the time. If it wasn't Bradley Beal, it was D Book that was initiating the offense most of the time. That's kind of you didn't see that on the really really good Suns teams with Chris Paul that was finishing as the one seeds and making the finals and doing all that. They haven't grabbed anybody that's gonna change that to me. Jalen Green obviously can be that you could put him as that initiator, but what has he really done in as an initiator for we've seen him have really really good swings and we've seen him have really really bad swings, and both those guys don't really guard. So it's going to come down and it's just they're so young. A lot of these guys that they're probably going to be leaning on are going to be first, second, third year guys. And so, you have Ryan Dunn who's done really good things for you, especially from a defensive standpoint. But even he's not going to be able to get the looks that he was getting in whenever you have Kevin Durant next to you. And so, it's going to come down to offensively is what is this team's offensive identity? They're going to be able to guard better than they have in years past, especially in the KD era, I would say, just because of the athletes that they have in the roster. But the fit in the mesh, I think, is super staticky. I think they're the second worst constructed roster in terms of flow and in the West. So it'll be interesting to see. Big question
Yeah,
marks.
yeah. I think we can agree to disagree there. I don't mind. Obviously, I don't love the Devin Booker, Jalen Green fit, but in my opinion, it can't be worse than the Devin Booker Bradley Beal fit. So,
That's true.
um, what are I want to see, maybe Colin Gillespie can get in there and give you some decent minutes at point guard.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
who knows? Uh,
I even think, you know,
Bray may be able to be
I
okay,
don't
but
even mind. I don't even mind their wing position now. Like with Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, like you mentioned, Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen had a solid year last year.
I think they
They're
have they probably have the the least amount of depth at the guard position in the NBA this year, or in the West at least.
yeah.
I would argue.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be on the leaders' shoulders, and it's gonna
If D-Book
be
goes down for them, what's going to happen? You know,
yeah. I mean, yeah, they'll be heavily relying on I'm sorry, Devin Booker for sure. I don't know. They're interesting. I think they'll be good enough to be at 10, but
we'll
like you
see.
said, I could see him bottom out too. So,
Yeah.
anyways, um, two more teams that we have not talked about.
Hmm.
I have the Sacramento Kings at 13.
I had them at 14, and they take the cake for who I think has the worst constructed roster in the West by far. And I think that the Suns have a really poorly constructed roster. The Kings take the cake on worst constructed roster. And I just want to point this out. Why do you go out and grab a guy like Russell Westbrook who's basically going to be, you know, your fifth point, your fourth combo on ball dominant guy on the team. You know, you have guys like, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Schroeder, Westbrook, and Malik Monk, who all need the ball to do what they do best. And then they don't even have a power forward on the. I was literally watching Dario Saric start for that team in the preseason 2 nights ago. Dario Saric has not had like a meaningful playoff stint in like years. Well, didn't he play for the Nuggets last year?
No,
Or
not in the playoffs
yeah,
reliably.
I
I
mean,
mean, I the
Saric is
last
horrible, and he was starting for them at the 4.
yeah.
And so, I mean, Keegan Murray's out, obviously, but like they're loaded. I will say that they have talent at the guard position, especially the combo guard. Like anybody can go off on any night for the Kings at the guard spot, but like no four-man to help rebound with Sabonis, no four-man to help develop a paint presence with Sabonis, and Sabonis is one of the worst centers, you know, in the paint for paint presence and paint defense in the NBA.
Yep. Yeah, if I were their GM, I would try to do for Sabonis like kind of what the Rockets did for Sengun, and build something like that. They're so far from that, it's crazy. I mean, bringing in Drew Eubanks does not help them, you know.
So bad.
Um, yeah, they're they're not gonna be able to guard anybody. They weren't able to guard anybody last year. They won't be able to guard anybody this year. I I think like really bringing in Russ is like, I mean, that's like one of the only reasons why I could think that bringing in Russ is a decent idea, just
Yeah.
defensively, you know. Um, but yeah, they're talented. Uh, but we've seen the DeMar DeRozan Zach LaVine movie before. It's not
It's a
great.
worse Bulls team from a few years ago. It's literally just a
Yep.
worse Bulls team.
So, you know, they have three different guys. They have, with Monk, Levine, and Rosen that may have 30. But the problem is they may give up 140 a night.
It's gonna be so. It's You're gonna go on those. You're gonna go on those West Coast trips and hit Sacramento and score 150, and then hit Portland and score 90.
I mean, they don't even, they're going to get destroyed on the boards too. I mean, it's
It's
going to
so
be,
bad. Like
yeah,
not
it's going
not
to
a
be really
forward
bad.
on that. I mean, I don't even think Keegan Murray is a 4 technically. Like he doesn't play
No,
like a 4. He plays like a guard,
he's forced to play the four,
and he's going to be
unfortunately.
forced to play the 4. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
the team is constructed terribly. Like Sarge is going to have to play. Doug McDermott, you may see some Dougie McBuckets. Like it's the worst constructed roster in the West. I don't think it's close.
I can't argue with you.
And
Um,
we both had
they're going to be rough. Yes, and then I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
You
you're
go
good.
ahead. You can
I was gonna
announce
say
the
I think we
bottom.
both had we both know what's coming for 15. I
Yep.
mean, the Utah Jazz are going to be. I will say they'll be more fun to watch this year because I
Yep.
enjoy watching Walter Clayton play basketball. I like Isaiah Collier. I like Sensabaugh.
Yep.
Obviously, it's going to be fun watching Ace Bailey play. It's going to be the worst team in possibly the NBA. You know, especially when you're in the West, you're going to lose a lot of games.
Yep.
So,
They unfortunately just don't really have the talent to be able to keep up with anybody in the West. They're the least talented team in the West by a mile.
mhm.
Um, really the only um, truly, you know, intriguing talent they have is Ace Bailey. Um, and we know he's going to shoot the ball.
Yeah.
So, you know, like you said, they'll be fun to watch. I think Ace Bailey gives them a certain level of watchability that they didn't necessarily have last year because he really is one of the most interesting guys in the NBA with his whole draft situation that went down.
Mhm.
So
Yep. I
they'll
don't
be
even blame
interesting.
him.
Uh, they'll be interesting, but yeah, I think last in the West is where they're going to be for their foreseeable future until they acquire more talent.
Yeah,
So,
and just like a side note, when is someone going to call Danny Ainge on this rebuild? You know, it's you get, you know, what, 4 or 5 picks for Rudy Gobert, and we're still going to be bottoming out the West. And what? How long ago was that? 4 years ago? Like no sense of improvement. Like you're gonna hang on. You're basically gonna hold Laurie through his peak, you know, trade value, and you know you're going to hold him past that. You're going to hold a lot of your young guys that you possibly could have gotten some better picks for and other players, and just do what? Like I don't understand the direction of this roster. It's stepping in the right direction, I will say, but this rebuild is taking a little bit longer than how I feel like a lot of teams have done it. So Danny Ainge, I feel like if it wasn't Danny Ainge, that there'd be some a little bit of more conversations happening on what's going on with the GM in Utah.
yep. I think, you know, their season is going to be defined on whether Ace Bailey is going to be their franchise guy or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be success for them if he is. So they're not going to win a lot of games. They don't want to win a lot of games. Um, but a lot of young talent. We'll see if anybody's good enough to stick. Will, you know, Keontae George may be really good on my fantasy team. Who knows?
Possibly, but
Um, but yeah,
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think we could get to the East tonight.
yeah, we may have to save the East for another day. Um, so that was a good synopsis of the West.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, it's good to be back. It's going to be a great year for NBA basketball, man.
yeah,
Um,
it's gonna be a
I
fun one.
just
All these teams are gonna be fun to watch,
100%. You
except maybe the
have,
Kings.
yeah, I mean, more talent in one conference than maybe what ever.
I mean, yeah, it's up there. It's up there for best I've seen in a while. So
So a lot of intriguing storylines. We're gonna try to produce a pod at least once a week to cover it all. And yeah, we'll be right along with y'all for the season. So with that being said, take it easy and y'all have a good one.